forward. Yeah. A lot of people.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tera Bhanajare Yamuna Tera Bhanajare Jaya Rama Rama Kunda Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tera Bhanajare Jaya Rama Kunda Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So, before we start, we can do our quick Mangalacharyan prayers for auspicious invocation. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapata Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everybody. I hope everyone is having a great day so far. I'd like to thank, on behalf of ISKCON Columbus, all of you for coming to the temple today to attend Sunday Feast. I also I'd like to thank Alankaru and Krishna for the maybe overstated introduction. I hope that I can maybe potentially live up to your words at some point. So yeah, is there anyone out here for the first time? I think we already established that there were. I don't know if anyone else came. Okay, that's okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back. Oh, Hare Krishna. What's your name, Prabhuji?
Krishna.
Nice to meet you. Yes. All right. So we will be speaking today on the topic today is the roles of God, and as such, I've picked a Bhagavad Gita verse that we will go over. So today we'll quickly recite the verse, and then the translation. We'll read through the purport, and then we will go through the rest of the class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The verse is the 18th verse of the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So we'll start. Katir Varta Prabhu Sakshi
Katir Varta Prabhu Sakshi
Nivasa Sharanam Surit
Nivasa Sharanam Surit
Prabhava Pralayasthanam
Prabhava Pralayasthanam
Nidanam Bijam Avyayam
Nidanam Vidavayam
Katir Varta Prabhu Sakshi
Katir Varta Prabhu Sakshi
Nivasa Sharanam Surit
Nivasa Sharanam Surit
Prabhava Pralayasthanam
Prabhava Pralayasthanam
Nidanam Bijam Avyayam.
Nidanam Vidavayam.
Would anyone like to recite the verse? We'll just have one person recite.
Katir Varta Prabhu Sakshi
Katir Varta Prabhu Sakshi
Nivasa Sharanam Surit
Nivasa Sharanam Surit
Prabhava Pralayasthanam
Prabhava Pralayasthanam
Nidanam Vidamavyayam
Nidanam Bijamavyayam Katir Varta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Surit Prabhava Pralayasthanam Nidanam Bijamavyayam. Can somebody read the translation? We'll skip the word by word, just in the interest of time.
I am the gold, faith, basket, the book, bird, the refuge, and the mercy of prayer. I am the creation, and I am the faith of every resting place.
Yeah, so I'm almost done with my high school, so I am proficient in counting. That's 12 roles that have been described in the translation. That's, I think, way too many for today. So we'll try to do some of it today, and then we'll do the rest tomorrow. Or sorry, not tomorrow. Next time. April. I don't know. Right time. I think it's Um. So yeah, can somebody read the purport? We can just you can read the full purport, Prabhu.
Gati means the destination where we want to go, but the ultimate goal is Krishna, although people do not know it. One who does not know Krishna is misled, and his so called progressive march is either partial or hallucinatory. There are many who make as their destination different demigods, but and by rigid performance of the strict respective methods, they reach different planets known as Chandraloka, Suryaloka, Indraloka, Maharloka, etc. But all such lokas or planets being creations of Krishna are simultaneously Krishna and not Krishna. Such planets being manifestations of Krishna's energy are also Krishna, but actually they serve only a step forward for realization of Krishna. To approach the different energies of Krishna is to approach Krishna indirectly. One should directly approach Krishna, for that will save time and energy. For example, if there is a possibility of going to the top of a building by the help of an elevator, why should one go by the staircase step by step? Everything is resting on Krishna's energy. Therefore, without Krishna's shelter, nothing can exist. Krishna is the supreme ruler because everything belongs to him and everything exists on his energy. Krishna being situated in everyone's heart is the supreme witness. The residents, countries or planets on which we live are also Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate goal of shelter, and therefore one should take shelter of Krishna either for protection or for annihilation of his distress. And whenever we have to take protection, we should know that our protection must be a living force. Krishna is the supreme living entity, and since Krishna is the source of our generation or the Supreme Father, no one can be a better friend than Krishna, nor can anyone be a better well-wisher. Krishna is the original source of creation and the ultimate rest after annihilation. Krishna is therefore the eternal cause of all causes.
Hare Krishna. Before we continue on with the class, I'd like to introduce one devotee, or three devotees actually just walked in.
Her Grace Devamurti Mataji, right? Devamurti Mataji, yeah. Her husband is His Grace Gopal Hari Prabhu. Yeah, I didn't know. Who many of you know Radhikam, who his younger brother is Gopal Hari Prabhu. I just like to personally thank them because we're all in the same God family, and actually it was Gopal Hari Prabhu that got me initiated at the time I did, both appealing to our spiritual master and also convincing me to get initiated when I did. So just obeisances to you and your entire family. Your two kids, Sita and Balaram. Yeah, I think it's yeah, Madhava Prabhu and Meenakshi Mohini Mataji. Yeah, both of you are here with there too as well. Sorry. All right, so before we start going to the depth of the verse, I'd like to detail a story that describes why the Bhagavad Gita is different than other books, not in the sense that it's a spiritual book, but how we should read it and the mood we should read it in. So I think many of you are familiar with the story. We can see on the rightmost altar the deities of Gaur-Nitai. Lord Chaitanya was the incarnation of Radha and Krishna combined, who appeared about 500 years ago. And part of his Leela was a South Indian tour. And on that South Indian tour, he visited Srirangam, one of the Divya Deshams in South India. And when he came, he saw one Brahmana in the middle of the temple who was opening a Bhagavad Gita, just reading the Bhagavad Gita. And around people were laughing at him. So he came and he went and saw what was going on, what was happening, why are people laughing? And he found out that this Brahmana was actually illiterate. He couldn't read, but still he was reading the Bhagavad Gita. So he asked this Brahmana, why are you reading this Bhagavad Gita? You can't read. And he said, well, my spiritual master told me to read the Bhagavad Gita, so I'm reading it. And then Lord Chaitanya asked this devotee, this Brahmana, what do you feel when you read it? And why are you? He saw that there were tears coming out of this Brahmana's eyes. So why are you crying? And this Brahmana said, when I see Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of everything, going on the battlefield and serving Arjuna, his devotee, as his charioteer, nothing but tears come from my eyes. That's the only emotion I experience. And in response, Bojitanya said, whatever this Brahmana knows about the Bhagavad Gita is the limit to what can be known. So this story goes to show that the Bhagavad Gita is different from other books in the sense that we cannot study it as a scholar. For example, a textbook. When I'm reading a chemistry textbook or a math textbook, I'm not getting prem or tears of love for whatever I'm learning, like my first order differential equations or anything like that. Instead of learning it just to understand the material. The Bhagavad Gita, we read it, yes, we can read it in a scholarly way, but also we should make sure that we are getting the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, i.e., the impetus for us to love Krishna. But in order to love Krishna, we also have to know who Krishna is. So this verse describes the different roles Krishna plays and how that affects all of us. So we'll go over the first role, which is gatir, or the goal. Yeah. So essentially what this role means is Krishna is the end goal of our life. That's because our initial goal is happiness. Would everyone say happiness is their goal? Yeah? How do you go? Yeah. So what does anyone think that causes happiness first? Any? Meeting our expectations? Accomplishment? Love? Yeah. Peace? Desire? Yeah. All right. Has anyone thought about money as happiness as well? That's something I hear a lot. So yeah, all of these are expectations for ourselves. And those require other individuals to fulfill those expectations. But can everyone fulfill all of our expectations? No. Let's say, does anyone say they have limited wants? Anyone say they have limited desires? I taught Sunday school last week, and there was one kid who challenged me on this, saying that she had limited desires, and I challenged her back, and she almost got me, and then I found something she wanted. But anyways, we understand that we all have unlimited desires. But can anyone say they have unlimited resources? No? I'm not seeing any hands. I think everyone would like millions, billions of dollars.
Limited desires are some.
So
Limited desire is also part of unlimited desire.
You desire.
Some girls telling me, but she has a limited desire.
No, she said she had a limited amount of desires. But yeah. I should have used that as well. I would have finished this much quickly. It was a 10-minute discussion that I had a challenge to get my point across. But our desires require infinite resources to fulfill. And that's the theme of economics. Economics says that we have limited resources and a lot of people who have more than unlimited wants. We have to figure out how to divide these set of resources to all these individuals. And because we have unlimited desires, what should the nature of the source that fulfills those desires be? Unlimited, yeah. We cannot get unlimited pleasure from limited objects. So because everyone agrees that the goal of happiness, yeah?
So, yes, why no problem said that what he said. So, yeah, people have
limited wants, but they don't necessarily have unlimited wants for rivalrous goods. So a rivalrous good is something that if you have it, then someone else can't have it at the same time. So if somebody wants knowledge, then if someone has knowledge, then they don't necessarily, that doesn't keep someone else from having the same knowledge.
Right, but most people have desires for not multiple desires, and also desires for rivalrous goods itself.
Yes.
Such as TVs. I guess everyone want like multiple. There's only a certain amount of TVs or cars or stuff like that.
So there's limited in some sense as well. Yeah, so we have all these desires, and we need some way to fulfill these unlimited desires. So we have to go to, as Prabhupada said, an unlimited source. And that unlimited source is Krishna. We see that Krishna is unlimited. He has all unlimited opulence, unlimited fame. And even when we chant Hare Rama, the word Rama means the giver of unlimited pleasure. So that's all what we are looking for. And because our goal is happiness, we have to take steps to reach the source of that happiness. And the source of that happiness is Krishna. So that leads us to what are the other goals? What about other goals? We have other goals as well. For me, it's college, job, everything else like that. Are those valid goals? Yes or no? To have.
in a way.
Yeah. Yes, in a way. Yeah. Can you explain that, Prabhu?
Because it acts as a facility.
To get where you need to be. Because, for instance, if I don't have a car, I live in Dayton. I mean, how would I get here? Something like that. So you can. It's not what you have; it's how you use it.
Exactly, yes. I think Prabhu was talking about the principle of Yukta Vairagya a little bit. I can speak into that as well. But essentially,
Maintain that Krishna is the goal, but we also have to take progressive and responsible steps to get to that goal. So Krishna doesn't say renounce the other goals, just dovetail all those goals with me. There's a theory called Yukta Vairagya, which means using everything in the service of Lord Krishna. We can use all of our other goals to get to Lord Krishna. I think the best example of this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I think, has everyone heard of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's name? Yeah, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur was one of our acharyas, the spiritual master of Gaurkishore Das Babaji, who's the spiritual master of Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur, who is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, not only was he a great Vaishnava acharya, but he was also a very competent, very exalted judge. I believe it'd take him 3 hours to complete the workload of someone else who had an 8-hour job, and that was before working from home. And you could, even if you had not a micromanaging boss, you still had to work very diligently. He had a very strict schedule, but he never ever said to renounce his job. Never ever said to renounce his family. He was a householder, like many of us are. So in that sense, the goal was dovetailed in the service of Lord Krishna because he had all that power. He was actually a little bit more context about him. He was in India in the 1800s, and he knew English, which was very rare for an Indian in the 1800s, actually. But I believe he was operating in Bengal somewhere, but he was very attached to Jagannath Puri, and because he had so much influence. And he had so much power influence. He actually forced the British government to build a train station from Puri to Bengal so he could live in Puri and work in Bengal. If he didn't have all those influences, it would be very difficult for him to maintain both those goals. That's like an important need. We may have other needs, but our primary goal should be Krishna. Our ultimate goal is Krishna. And Prabhupada gives a wonderful example there, that if the highest goal is Krishna, so we don't need to take little steps so we can go to the elevator. So we should make sure that our strong goal is Krishna, and we shouldn't get diverted by other things as well. Are there any examples of devotees who made their goal Krishna, the goal of their life Krishna, and then therefore made all their other actions, dovetailed all their other actions into getting Krishna? There's a few. Dhruva Maharaj, yeah. Ambarish Maharaj, yeah. Yeah, is that the first canto described? Yeah. So I actually have Dhruva Maharaj down, so I'll discuss a little bit about him because I think his story is very interesting because it connects all of it. So Dhruva Maharaj was the son of Uttanapad Maharaj, who had two wives. One was Dhruva Maharaj's mother, Suniti, and the other was Suruchi, the other co-wife. And because Suruchi was younger, Uttanapada had some favoritism towards her. And as a result, when Dhruva Maharaj's stepbrother and him were playing on Uttanapada's lap, Suruchi, his stepmom, told him to get off because he was actually not her daughter. And she said a lot of rude words to him. Uttanapada didn't defend him. Stepson, sorry. So Uttanapad said a lot of, Suruchi said a lot of rude words to Dhruva Maharaj, and Uttanapad didn't say anything. So Dhruva Maharaj, being in that leader class, he was born in a royal family. He had that passion, that anger. So he went to his mother, and he asked his mother, "Oh, what should I do?" And his mother said, "Go to the forest and meditate on Lord Vishnu." So he actually did that. He was, I think, 5 or 6 years old. And it described that after 6 months of meditation, every time you take a breath, the whole planetary system would move one way, like a pendulum. It would swing like this. So eventually, Lord Vishnu appeared in the vision of Dhruva Maharaj. And Dhruva Maharaj makes an interesting point, that he had all these other goals before. He wanted to be his father's favorite. He wanted to be liked by everyone. He wanted to have a kingdom that was actually greater than his father's. But when he saw Lord Krishna, he said all of those goals were like broken pieces of glass. And right in front of me, I have a diamond. So we may not be able to experience that, but we can trust the words of the pure devotees like Guru Maharaj, who said that the diamond of Lord Krishna is more valuable than these broken pieces of glass. And at the end he says, Swami Kritar Dosmin Varam Nayache. I don't desire anything else except for you. So that shows that he's made the ultimate goal of his life Krishna. And then after all of this, he actually ended up getting his kingdom and then got a permanent spot over the entire world. So he got all those other goals. But he made the priority Krishna. And that's something we can take for our lives, making our priority Krishna and dovetailing everything in the mood of using everything in Krishna service. Like Prabhu said, it's not like we say we don't use a car because Radharani didn't use a car or whatever, or the gopis didn't use a car, or Rupa Goswami didn't use a car. We have to get from Dayton, or you have to get from Dayton to Columbus, so we have to drive somehow. So we have to get a car. Are there any other examples of goals, of devotees who made Krishna their goal? There's one more that I was thinking. Parikshit, yeah. Ambrish Maharaj. Yeah. I guess I'll highlight one that I think really shows this is Rukmini. She very clearly makes Krishna her goal. Just a little bit about her story. She was the son of the king of Vidarbha, the king of Vidarbha. The daughter of the king of Vidarbha, and she had just only heard about Krishna because in those days, I think they called bards in English. They would just travel from place to place and say what was happening. And Krishna was killing all these demons in Mathura. What?
It's like Kirtaners.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I think now they're called bards or something. So they would travel from kingdom to kingdom and say what was happening about other news, and they would always bring up Krishna. So gradually she kept hearing this and got attached. And she was arranged marriage, actually supposed to be arranged marriage to Shishupal, who was an enemy of Krishna. And in the 11th hour, like literally I think the day before, she wrote this note to Krishna describing that her intentions was only to marry him. She said, if you don't marry me, that's okay. I'll give up my life. Maybe that's a standard we don't have to achieve. But she said, please come and take me. Don't let Shishupal take me. Shishupal is a jackal. You're the lion. I am your property. Don't let this jackal take me. So in that way, she established that Krishna was the goal of her life. And she dovetailed all her activities into that. So it's not just saying that Krishna is the goal, because it's easy to say that, but also we need prospective action to make Krishna the goal of that life. So if there's any other clarifications that like me that we can move on. All right, we can move on to the next verse. The next word is Bharata or sustainer. So there's one song that Lord Chaitanya would sing while he was traveling across South India, across India. And many have heard it before, so I won't repeat the whole thing. But it's Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, 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 Rakshamam, Krishna, 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 Pahimam. So those two words, Rakshamam and Pahimam, mean protector and maintainer. So he's asking Krishna, oh, you protect me, you maintain me. His Grace Ambassador was giving a very interesting story about a devotee from Chowpatty. She had a boss who was not favorable to Krishna consciousness, very antagonistic, often like to make fun of Lord Krishna. So this boss asked this devotee, why are you practicing this Krishna consciousness? It's just a waste of time, And she said, actually, Krishna is my ultimate maintainer. So I'm just repaying my debts and practicing. And he said, okay, we'll do 1 month trial. You do everything you do normally, and then after that, you tell me who maintained you. So she was carrying on with her life. She was getting cooking, cleaning, doing her job, taking care of her kids and such. And every day, this one servant who was sent actually by that boss who challenged it, would come and help her do all these things. They would give her the groceries, help her cook, and all of these things. So at the end of the month, this boss came to this employee, this devotee, and said, who maintained you for this last month? And he said, oh, this servant came and did everything, helped me with the cooking. And this boss said, actually, I was the one who sent that servant. And the devotee replied, how wonderful is Radha Gopinath, that through this atheistic boss, they can maintain me like that. So yeah, because the truth is, it's not the boss that was maintaining him. The boss doesn't have the resources to maintain either. Instead, the boss sent another person but ultimately it was caused by Krishna. So Krishna maintains us through many different ways. Even we see there's so many fruits that fall from the trees, and the birds can come and they take their fruits on their own. They don't have to work a 9-to-5 job or pay rent or invest in stocks or retirement or anything. The fruits just fall from the trees, and the birds go and take that, all by Krishna's arrangement. The birds, all these animals are maintained by Krishna himself. As far as application for us, how we can remember that Krishna is our maintainer, we should understand that Krishna is the controller of everything. Krishna is also the most knowledgeable, and Krishna is also our ever well-wisher. There was a devotee, I won't mention the name of the devotee, but their child went through a very severe health crisis at a young age. And His Holiness Ridhavija Maharaj told this devotee, Krishna is in charge and he doesn't make mistakes. So using these three, we can understand that Krishna is controlling everything. So any situation given to us is given directly by Krishna. Krishna doesn't make mistakes, as in it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing, he's changing things or whatever. And Krishna is our ever well-wisher. So whatever he's doing perfectly, and he's doing it for our own benefit. So in this way, he's maintaining us. So in that sense, he will give us exactly what we need. Whatever we require will be given directly by him. If we don't need anything else, then we won't get that. If we need something for our Krishna consciousness, we will get that. And that's part of the faith that we need to understand, that we need to have in order to progress in Krishna consciousness. Actually, there's 6 principles of surrender that Lord Chaitanya outlines. So I think it's Sanatana Goswami. He's directly said this, quoted in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Those 6 are accepting everything favorable to devotional service, rejecting everything unfavorable to devotional service, having full faith that Krishna will protect you, accepting Krishna as your maintainer, self-surrendering everything, and humility. So those middle 2, accepting Krishna as your protector and believing that he's your maintainer, having this conviction will allow us to surrender more to Krishna. So understanding that Krishna is our ultimate maintainer that does everything for us. Like in the case of that devotee, if we understand, yes, there may be a boss that's giving us a servant or a salary, but actually all of it's coming from Krishna, then we can develop that faith that's needed to surrender to him, that we can make him the goal of our life. We can come back to that point and eventually get the happiness that Krishna gives us all. Are there any examples of devotees? There's one example, at least from a material perspective, Krishna maintains very nicely. Srila Prabhupada, yes, that's one. Anything in the Bhagavatam? Sudama, yeah, that's the one I had done. So we can go into that story. Sudama was a friend of Lord Krishna when he was in Sandipani Muni's ashram. So Sandipani Muni was Krishna's guru, and Krishna went to study from this guru, and he also had this friend, Sudama Brahmana. And after their experience in the ashram, after the studies were over, Krishna started entering into his Dwarka Leela, his Mathura Leela, everything, started marrying all these queens, having a bunch of palaces and stuff. And Sudama, he married, he had some kids, but he didn't have any income. As a Brahmin, he didn't want to work or anything like that. So he lived a very simple life. He had like torn clothes, he had a thatched house and everything, and he had to beg from his neighbors for food and all of these things. And his wife said, we need some standards. I need to feed my children. I need to actually be able to have stuff. So his wife asked Sudama to go to his old childhood friend, Krishna, who she knows is prospering very nicely, and ask him to give all of his wealth. She knew that Sudama was very humble, didn't have these material desires, so she knew that he wouldn't just go on and ask. He said, okay, if you get the opportunity to see Krishna, you love him so much, you get the opportunity to see him, while you're there, please ask him to give us all his wealth. So Sudama agrees and asks, the only way I'll do that though is if we can give something to him. So let's give him some rice. So actually his wife goes out and begs for rice from all the other neighbors and gives it to Sudama. And Sudama walks. I don't actually know where he's from. Is there any mention in the Bhagavatam of where he's from or how far away he's from Dwarka?
4 months.
4 months. Okay, okay, it's in Gujarat. Okay. So it's relatively close. It's not like half the country away.
From 4 months, they went to
14, 15 hours drive? Okay. So yeah, it's okay, never mind. It's a long distance. And Sudama Vipra walked all the way across to Dwarka, and he met Lord Krishna. And actually, Lord Krishna served him very nicely.
Not good. This person is Dwarka, right? Dwarka is also Mithila.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Everything you must do that.
Dwarka was actually important. When you went that time, Dwarka is
2 hours by drive. Okay, so I guess the distance is getting shorter and shorter as we speak. Either the traffic is clearing really quickly in India.
that time, that Dwarka was important.
Oh, okay, right.
Krishna left that Dwarka so much.
Right. So the,
Replication of Dwarka in first time.
right. Okay.
That is not the same Dwarka.
Right. Okay. So yeah. Anyways, it's a quite lengthy distance. So we walked all of there, and Krishna was actually so excited to see him that it describes that Krishna was being fanned by Rukmini Devi, his queen that we just discussed about, and actually he got off of the bed and left the service that Rukmini was giving him to wash the feet of this Sudama Brahmana, because he was so excited to see his friend. He was so happy to see his friend and was excited to meet him, catch up, everything. And seeing all this opulence and seeing his friend, Sudama actually got a little shy. And he didn't actually say that he wanted any of this wealth and opulence. And he gave Krishna this rice, this hard rice. And Krishna took it. He ate one spoon, and Rukmini stopped him. And it's described that Rukmini stopped him because she said, if you eat all of this, then what will be left for all of us? This is just simple rice that was begged for. But they had so much. Krishna really saw the bhav that Sudama was offering it with. And as a result, so Sudama never actually communicated his desire for wealth, his desire to have maybe not a mansion or anything, but just a higher standard of living than he was at right now. But Krishna, because he's Paramatma, could understand why Sudama was coming. So when Sudama went back to his home, he actually didn't see his home. He saw this big palace. He saw his wife that was dressed in very, very fine clothes, his children that were dressed in very fine clothes. And that's when he realized that just because he offered this simple rice, Krishna gave him all of this wealth. Krishna maintained him very nicely. So in that regard, Krishna gave Sudama everything, and that shows that he is the maintainer. So we will go on to the next word, which is Prabhu. I think we're going to get through even less than I thought we were going to get through today. That's okay. So Prabhu means master. So we call each other Prabhu here, or like Alankar Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Jain Prabhu was saying that actually we say it it's such a respectful term, but we say it in such an insulting way, like, hey Prabhu, why are you not doing it like this? Hey Prabhu, why are you doing it like that? But when we say Prabhu, we are addressing the other devotees that are mastered, giving ourselves in service to them, saying, Prabhu, if you need anything, well, I'm willing to serve. So in that sense, we understand Krishna is the supreme master. And that leads us to, who are we? That means we are a servant. But who wants to be a servant? Other than our Premi Bhakta here. Anybody else? Our Premi Bhakta number 2? Hanuman? Anyone in this room? I guess Hanuman may be on the altar, but anyone in this room? Oh, I guess not. Oh, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, so it's difficult to accept that we're a servant, as I'm not seeing any hands up. So I guess I can ask the question, what do you associate servantship with in this world? Oppression. Negative connotation. I wrote that in my notes. Exploitation. Exactly. Usually we say, oh, I'm a servant of my boss. My boss overworks me. My boss makes me work 12 hours a day and pays me like it's 6 or whatever, all these things. I'm not working. I don't know why. I'm just heard this out. I'm not experienced it. But the reason why is because, exactly, we're subjugated to do something that's not going to benefit us. When we are giving service to somebody else, we are working for their pleasure. And in the material world, that means we're not working for ours. But on a spiritual context, when we work for Krishna's pleasure, we also please ourselves. Because Krishna we say Hare Rama, he's the giver of all pleasure. When we serve him, he gives us pleasure. So actually, it's easier to take the role of a servant when it comes to Krishna, because all the risks like oppression, exploitation, negative connotation, none of that is there when it comes to Krishna. As he describes, he's our well-wisher, he's our shelter, he's our sustainer. And because of that, when we serve him, we actually get the happiness that we were looking for. So as a result, we should all endeavor Oh, okay. We should all endeavor to make Krishna our Prabhu, our master. I think instead of discussing this more, we can go on to an example. I think the best example of this is the gopis in Vrindavan. So the gopis were the daughters. I got it right this time. The daughters of other cowherd men and cowherd women in Vrindavan. They were, I think some of them were a little bit older than Krishna, some of them were younger, some of them were actually like the age of his parents. But we'll discuss the ones that are a little bit older than him. They were had a very strong attraction for Krishna. They love Krishna in many ways. We can focus on like the conjugal love that they had for Krishna is a discussion in and of itself. But today we can focus on how the gopis treated Krishna as their master. There's this very famous story that when Krishna, I believe he was in Dwarka, had a headache, and he asked Uddhava, his friend and his consultee, I need the cure for the headache, and the only cure for this headache is to take the dust of the lotus feet of one of my devotees and put it on my head. So Uddhava went around asking people to give the dust of the lotus feet on Krishna's head. The thing is, though, if the dust of your lotus feet touches the Lord's head, the Shastra said you go to hell. So there's a pretty big consequence for doing this service. And he first went to the Brahmanas, and they said, oh no, we can't do this. Then we'll go to hell. I don't want to do this service for Krishna. But Krishna's still suffering from the headache. This rejection isn't helping him. So then Uddhava goes to some yogis, and they say, no, we can't give our dust either, then we'll go to hell. And finally, Uddhava goes to many other devotees. And then he goes to the gopis. He goes back to Krishna, I think, and says, oh, no one's giving. And then Krishna directs him to go to the gopis. And then he goes all the way to Vrindavan, to the gopis, and says, Krishna has a headache. And he wants the dust of the lotus feet of his devotees. My spiritual master was commenting, he didn't ask for a Vicks Vapor Rub or Tiger Balm or whatever. He asked for the dust of lotus feet of some devotee. And the gopis were automatically willing to do it. It's not like they didn't know the consequences. They knew what would happen. But they still were willing to give the dust of their feet so that Krishna would be satisfied. So that's the essence of that servitorship. They were not doing it for their own pleasure. They were doing it for somebody else's pleasure, willing to risk their own position to do so, but they still did it. And as a result, they got the highest happiness. Actually, it's said that Radharani says that Radharani, the topmost of the gopis, says that if Krishna desires my unhappiness, then that unhappiness is actually my greatest my greatest joy. Because whatever Krishna desires is how. If Krishna's desires are fulfilled, my desires are also fulfilled. Because that's why I want to be happy. And that's the essence that's the result of serving Krishna. That joy, that we call it prema, that ananda that we get from serving Krishna. So the gopis, they were suffering so much, they were willing to go to hell because they were feeling so much joy just in serving Krishna. So it's definitely a very difficult thing to stomach at first, saying we're giving up our own personal desires to serve somebody else. But by doing so, we actually get the greatest benefit, as shown in the story of the gopis. So I think we can do one more. I should end for questions at 12:25. Okay, so we'll do one more. We'll finish the first line. So the next word is Sakshi, the witness. So it is said that Krishna is the witness of everything. In the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a verse that describes that there are many different witnesses of all of our actions. There's the moon, there's the air, there's the sun, and then finally that verse says the super soul is the witness. There's actually a discussion that I was listening to saying that many people think they can get away with crime because no one's watching. It's a common saying, okay, if the cops are at the speed limit is 60, if the cops aren't at the speed limit is 90. But we can understand that actually there's always witnesses around us. There's like I said, the sun, the moon, and the air and everything. But ultimately, Krishna is the supreme witness. It's interesting because it's not Krishna is. It's not that Krishna is Krishna is not described as the controller as this form as a super soul, but rather as the witness. It's described that within us we have a soul who we are, and also Krishna, who is the super soul, as a super soul. And it's described that those two things can be compared to two birds on a tree. And one bird is eating the fruits of the tree, another bird's just standing there and watching. And that bird that's standing there and watching is willing to give advice to the bird who's just eating the fruits that are either sour or sweet, but he's not going to force it on them. He's just witnessing all the reactions. So as a result, the super soul is not going to force anything. We have that independence. Krishna gives us that independence. We're all made in, as man is made in the mirror of God. We all have small, minute independence because Krishna has a lot of independence, and we are a little bit, his portion. So as a result, we know that because we have that small independence, Krishna doesn't interfere with that independence. He just witnesses all of that. But he does see everything, and then if we are willing to go to him, he'll give us guidance. But first, we understand he's just witnessing all of our actions and everything. It's described in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that there's two knowers of the field. We say the body is the kshetra, or the field. And there's two knowers of the field, the soul and the super soul. So we, and then also Krishna. But it's described that Krishna is the more superior of the two knowers. Does anyone know why? He's a super soul, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. So I know what's wrong with my body. I know if I'm hungry or if I'm thirsty, but I don't know if my sister is hungry or my sister is thirsty or if I'm uncomfortable with whatever he's feeling. I can witness my own body, but Krishna is the witness for everything. He's the witness for everybody's body. And as a result, he is said as the supreme Sakshi, the supreme witness. There's a couple of pastimes that are related to this. As we said, Sudama, we described that Sudama actually never said that he wanted wealth. But because Krishna was the witness, he knew that he knew Sudama what his desire was, his intention of coming. And as a result, he made all the arrangements to happen. We also talked about Dhruva Maharaj. It's described that when Dhruva Maharaj saw Lord Krishna, because he was a 6-year-old boy, he didn't have the intelligence to say all these massive prayers. Like we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Gajendra says all these prayers, Kunti says all these prayers, all these long, poetic verses. And Dhruva Maharaj is a 6-year-old boy. He didn't have the intelligence to say any of those verses by heart or to compose anything. But because Vishnu knew that, Krishna knew that, he placed his conch on the head of Dhruva Maharaj and gave him the intelligence to speak. And then Dhruva Maharaj gives some wonderful prayers, including that verse that says, all of the other pleasures are just broken pieces of glass, and Krishna is the real jewel. And then there's one more pastime that I think it's pretty obvious which pastime when it comes to Sakshi Gopal. I'll briefly describe this and then we can call it for a day. But so then this was happening. I don't remember exactly when this was described. It's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that I believe the temple is in Orissa, right? Orissa, yeah. There is a temple of Sakshi Gopal in Orissa, but that Gopal city was originally in Vrindavan, and in that town there were two brahmanas. There was a much older brahmana and a younger brahmana. The younger brahmana happened to be a little bit poorer, but those two brahmanas went on traveling, and the younger brahmana was always serving the older brahmana. And when they were in Vrindavan, and the older brahmana told this younger brahmana, "You've done this such nice service for me, so I will give you my daughter in marriage because I think you'd provide a good spiritual foundation for my daughter. So please accept." And they said it in front of this Gopal Didi in Vrindavan. So the Gopal Didi was there and witnessing that. So when they came back to their town in Orissa, because the younger brahmana was much poorer than this older brahmana's family, the entire family made a huge ruckus about it. They were like, "Oh, why are you marrying this? You just gave your daughter to this poor brahmana? Why?" And the son of this older brahmana, who was not, he didn't believe in, he was more atheistic. He said, "Oh, you said it in front of a stone statue of God. It's not actually God. You can just say you never said it, and there's no witnesses to prove that it was there." And he was espousing this claim. So eventually what this younger brahmana did, because he wanted to prove the older brahmana's truth, his words true, he went all the way back to Vrindavan and told this Didi, "This is what's happening. Please come and serve as a witness." And this Didi says, "Well, you've never heard of a Didi walking across India." But the Didi was speaking. So the younger brahmana said, "Well, I've never heard of a Didi speaking either." So he asked he asked his Didi to come. And the Didi said, yes, I'll come, but you have to have the faith. So you keep walking. If you look back, I'll stop right there. But if you keep walking straight forward all the way there and you don't turn back to check if I'm there, I will be there at the end. So this Brahmin had so much faith in this Gopal Deity, the power of the Deity, the non-difference between the Lord and the Deity, that he could actually, I think it's described, he could hear the jingling of the ankle bells. Oh, yeah, the sound. There's ankle bells. Yeah. So he could hear that ankle bell of the Sakshi Gopal Deity. So it was following him all the way. And then right when he got to the town, he looked back and the Sakshi Gopal statue, or the Deity, stood.
At one point, he had a doubt. And he turned back.
Oh, okay. That's where he stood. And then he brought all the townsmen there and said this Deity walked all the way from Vrindavan here to prove testament that this Brahmana, what he said was true. He actually did say this. He did promise me his daughter. And look, this is serving as this witness. I think it's a famous saying, as God is my witness. I think it came from this pastime. But yeah, so it shows that, especially in terms of devotee, Krishna is witnessing everything. This one was showing that it had to be in front of the deity, but also we can understand that Krishna, this was not at the temple, doesn't mean Krishna's not seeing. So Krishna is witnessing everything, and he knows everything that's happening. So, yeah. With that, it's 12:25. I think I'll stop now for questions. Are there any questions?
About the there's a devotee who
two daughters arguing about something, and the older daughter said to the younger daughter, Krishna sees everything and Krishna knows everything. And then the younger daughter was horrified, so she ran up to the altar and told Krishna, don't tell Mata.
Wonderful that they had that faith. And then
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
And also when he's speaking with the DP, and he said, DP don't speak, they cannot come. He said, when the DP can speak, he also can walk.
Yeah. The deity started speaking, I can't walk. You never heard of a deity walking. And then you said, now you're speaking, and I never heard of a deity speaking either. So if you can speak, you can walk.
The stone deity can talk, and a stone
Stone deity can talk, stone deity can walk. Anything else, or should we?
The sustainer, we were hearing, we had Adhigala Prabhu in Cincinnati for the past 4 days, and he was talking about all these the wonderful devotees and the Leela. Chandra Mahaprabhu talking about Raja Sridhar. I was thinking in our lives as well, when we are like, Krishna is a sustainer, but the more we have, we feel like we can control our own destiny, our own lives. But devotees or people who don't have anything actually literally that we can take inspiration from their lives and see how Krishna sustains devotees who have, like he had whatever he had, 50% of his profits he used to give away for worship of the Ganges, so hardly barely just, and then he used to work for 12 hours and then chant for 12 hours and hardly had anything. But yeah, the Lord sustains his devotees.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I mentioned the point of Sudama, who ended up getting a big palace, but it's not like we
say, oh, Krishna, give me this palace and go home, and our home is turned into a palace either. It's not like Krishna is every surrender, every mode of him giving sustenance is going to be giving a lot of material objects like he did with Sudama. In the case of Kolavitashidhar, he sustained him in the way that he needed. Like Kolavitashidhar wanted that darshan of Lord Krishna. He wanted that. And so Nimai came every day as one person arguing. And during the Mahaprakash Lila, he said, okay, I don't have anything. I barely sell anything. Whatever profits I have, I either give to the Ganga or just to continue my whatever small business. I only have one desire. May that Nimai who comes and every day he argues with me, may he always appear in my heart. So he was being sustained in that way as well. So yeah, that's also nice. That we don't have to, it's a good point. We don't have to, we should not think that because Krishna gave Sudama all this wealth, that when we do it, we'll also get that wealth as well. Krishna will sustain us in whatever needs we may have.
Just to that point,
I just recently read about Sudama's pastime also, and then Sudama didn't want material benefits because of his families and wives. They had nothing to eat, so Sudama still said, no, it's okay. Let's just eat one grain of rice. Let's divide it into half, and then let's survive on that. It's enough. So sometimes devotees and anybody, even it's said that for material desires you don't need to ask Krishna. Krishna is gonna give you what you need, and then you ask for higher stuff like spiritual. Give bhakti, give faith, give love for Krishna. But from Sudama's example, if the need of the moment is to feed the family, if the need of the moment is to make sure that the family is also not in stress, and there is nothing wrong in asking to Krishna about our material situation also.
Yeah, actually, in the purport of the Gajendra Moksha, Gajendra Moksha is interesting. For the story of Gajendra, I'm sure many people know.
And he was bit by a crocodile and asked Krishna for prayer, asked Krishna to save him. And he actually says that in an ideal situation, I wouldn't be asking you for anything. As a pure devotee, I wouldn't be asking you for anything. But because I'm in danger, I'm forced to go to you for shelter. So I can't go to anybody else for shelter. I have to go to you. So I ask you to do something for me. And Prabhupada says in the purport, we may have to ask Krishna something. We should do so saying we don't want to be in a situation where we're asking him for all of these things. We should say, oh, I should be asking you only for service. But here I'm forced to ask you for this benediction. And in the case of Sudama, to maintain his family, we noticed that Rupa Goswami gave away 50% of his wealth. And many people say, oh, 50% of your wealth for Krishna consciousness, that's a lot. But notice that it's not 100% of your wealth for Krishna consciousness, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that part of your service is maintaining your family. Maintaining your family. So you don't have to give all your wealth away if that means that your kids won't have anything to eat or anything. So you can maintain your family as well in order so that they can also serve. They can have able bodies. They can have able situations to do service, to do sadhana and such. And in that way, we can spend our money that way.
Rupa Goswami, when he did not give 50% when he was working.
Yeah, that was Vanaprastha.
So when he was family life, he's not.
Yeah.
So he was using 100% of his time, energy in service of Krishna. But when he became Vanaprastha, so that's where he divided 50%, giving it to his relatives. 25% he kept it for his travel. And then he gave other things. So that's one has to understand. Otherwise, people become fanatics and saying that.
Right.
But Rupa Goswami, they don't understand the past. And the first thing, and the second thing is Sudama, when I just lost my thought when he was saying that.
About his family.
What his family, the first.
That Sudama didn't want material gains because of his wife.
No, I got it. So in Prabhupada, when he was stuck in ISKCON, so he had a heart attack 2 times, right? And third time he got very sick. So he's not blossomed ISKCON yet. So then he went to Vrindavan for recovery. And a lot of his disciples are still young, they don't have vision, they don't have mission. So then Prabhupada said, he himself said, everybody is not asking him Krishna. He said that time, if you so ask Krishna, if you so desire, you want my help in this world, you can pray for my help. So that I can stay here and this movement can move forward. In that exception situation, you can ask. He said, if you so desire, because you know what is best, I don't know. If you think that is good, so this is my desire too. If you think it's not good, let me go, let me go. So there's 2 things people have to understand. The Rupa Goswami did not work while he was working in the family.
Right.
After retirement, that's first thing. And second thing, Prabhupada said, if you so desire, you can ask. In Bhagavatam, Sakama, Mokshakam, Udar, you know what's right.
Yeah, if you whatever desire you have, you should
Come to Krishna. If Krishna knows, then he will give if it is good for us. He will not give if it is not good for us.
Right. That's part of the principle of we were talking about Yukta Vairagya, using everything in Krishna's service. The word Vairagya also means renunciation. So we say, okay, Krishna, I want this thing for service, but it's not that if I don't get this, I won't serve. You might say, I want an electric car so that I don't have to pay so much money on gas so I can drive from here and there. But it's not saying, oh, if I don't get the newest Tesla, I'm not going to temple or anything like that. We shouldn't say like that either. We say, this is something we can have. If we get it, we get it. And we can use it all we want and how much ever service. But if we don't get it, we should also be willing to adjust for services as well. So.
That's one thing I wanna just make sure I understand. The gopi, they when you give that example, they don't see Krishna as the master, right? It's the mood of which they're in, correct? Because the pastime when Krishna appear as Vishnu, because that's the mood there, and where is Krishna? So it's more of the mood what they're in that they're they're seeing Krishna, right, in the mass, and not in
Yeah.
the real sense of, okay, we are striving to be the servant of the servants, sort of.
Right. They love Krishna because he is Krishna. They're serving Krishna in that way, but it's not because he's God.
Okay.
It's because they just love Krishna because
That's what they just do. So yeah, I mean that story. Like actually, there was this one story in the gopis were looking for Krishna. He had disappeared, and the four-headed form of Narayan came, and all of us would offer obeisances. Oh, Narayan, Hare Krishna, all these things. But the gopis just said, "Hey, Narayan, where's Krishna?" They didn't offer any of that. They were just so pointed on getting Krishna. So yeah, in that sense, they didn't recognize that Krishna was God, but they still they still accepted him as their master in a sense. They did everything to serve. I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur just defines that as Gopi Bhav. That Gopi Bhav, the way we serve, the mood of the gopis is to do everything for Krishna. It's not necessarily like having the external features of the gopis, but really it's doing everything in the service of Lord Krishna for the only pleasure, like ahituki apratihata yayatmi suprasipati, having unmotivated, uninterrupted devotion service to Lord Krishna. So that's the mood of the gopis. Vanchakapalipurascha kripasindhubhya eva patyanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namaः. Srila Prabhupada.
Now we'll all stand up and put the matches.
Jai. Haribo.